This week on The Destination Angler.
And we were basically almost surviving off of Pop-Tarts, just in the car, just kept on driving. Just
Pop-Tarts?
Yeah, just always going, and we finally ever...
I think we talked earlier, my wife wasn't with us, so Pop-Tarts it was. It's food on the go that I don't have to make sure I keep warm or cool. I don't know that there's ever an expiration date for Pop-Tarts.
I think they're banned in some countries, though, but besides that, let's see it. Welcome to the Destination Angler Podcast, the podcast for anglers who travel. And I'm your host, Steve Haig. We go right to the source, the local guides and experts, to build your knowledge of top fishing locations around North America. It's a big world out there. Now go and fish it.
I'm going away for a while, but I'll be back soon. Whoa, whoa, whoa.
Hey anglers, welcome back to another episode of The Destination Angler, brought to you by Anglers Coffee, perfecting the coffee experience for the fly fishing community and anglers everywhere with small batch coffee delivered to your doorstep. It's darn near perfect. And by Trout Routes, the #1 fishing app, helping you find new trout waters so you spend less time on the road and more time doing what you love, trout fishing. Coming up on the Destination Angler Podcast, we've got an awesome show on the wild, rugged, and remote Wind River Range, home of more than 2,000 alpine lakes and the biggest golden trout in North America. Then we're headed on an Alaskan backcountry adventure like none other to Lake Iliamna, with hair-raising stories of giant Alaskan brown bears and rainbows the size of your leg. I'm not kidding. Better keep your head on a swivel. And be sure to backcast to catch the last episode on the Sequoia River in Clarksville, Georgia, known for giant trout and southern hospitality. You won't want to miss these shows. And be sure to hit that subscribe button to catch all the Destination Angler episodes coming your way. Want to be the first to know about new episodes? Well, head on over to the Destination Angler website and sign up. You'll be entered to win a free year's subscription to Trout Routes. We'll pick a winner on the very next show. And speaking of winners, our winner this week is Keith from Littleton, Colorado. Congratulations, Keith, and thanks for listening. And today our destination are the 12 states in the Western Native Trout Challenge, and our guests are Trout Challenge completers Ben and Oliver Sheridan of Scottsdale, Arizona. The Western Native Trout Challenge is a multi-state effort hosted by the Western Native Trout Initiative, a conservation organization that works across 12 western states to protect, restore, and enhance 21 native trout and char species. A little bit about our guest. Ben is an avid fly angler, having spent much of his life chasing trout and guiding on the Upper Delaware River. He decided to tackle the Trout Challenge as a way to spend time with his son Oliver while doing what he loves, trout fishing. And what an adventure it's been. After 3 years and thousands of miles, Ben has completed all 3 levels of the Trout Challenge, netting an impressive 18 species of trout in 12 different states. His son Oliver is the first kid to complete Stage 2 of the Trout Challenge, catching 12 species in 8 states. Together they've encountered moose and bears, remote alpine lakes, dangerous mountain roads, large rivers and tiny streams, chasing trout in their native habitat from Alaska to Arizona to California to Colorado. And stick around to the end for some great technical tips, top fly patterns, and what in the world motivated him to take this on. Welcome to the show, Ben and Oliver.
Thank you for having us.
Now, Oliver, you got to chime in here, buddy.
Oh, yeah. Thank you.
All right, good. Yeah, so, the way I found Ben was through a friend who was looking for advice on how to complete the Utah Slam. And I think there's a special bond between these participants because my buddy, Ben, I think called you and you were like really nice and helped him scope out some streams in Utah and just said that you were a heck of a nice guy. So that's how we connected.
Well, that is accurate. And, essentially so much of this sport or hobby, or even I would classify as even a lifestyle, is essentially passing on that passion that we have to other individuals and helping them as others have helped us as we've worked on trying to accomplish the challenges.
Yeah, that's great. And then after Ben and I talked before the show and he mentioned, hey, my son was the first kid to complete level 1 of the challenge and has since gone on to complete level 2. We thought, let's get both you guys here on the phone, have some fun. So here we are. Okay, so now you guys live in Arizona, which there are some trout in Arizona, probably not the capital of fly fishing, but What led you to Arizona?
Well, actually, I was a fly fishing guide in New York, and essentially was dating a girl that after college ended up moving to Arizona to be with her family, and I followed her. What's kind of unique about Arizona is we have 18 different salmonoid species here in the state of Arizona.
No
So
kidding. Yeah, I didn't
that
know
is
that.
something that most people don't realize. Essentially including two species of trout that are actually found, one of which is only found in Arizona, and then another one that we actually share with New Mexico. So it's actually a very unique place to fish that most people have absolutely no clue about.
Yeah, that's right. I've been there to Phoenix several times, and it's hot. And I can't imagine there's a whole lot of trout streams right there near Phoenix. But I guess if you get up in those mountains, you can find, what is it, Gila and Apache trout that you've got there?
Yeah, those are the two native species that are found here in the state. But in addition to that, we have obviously rainbow trout. As you head up to Lee's Ferry, that is one of the amazing place for views and wild rainbow trout. We also have got brown trout. You end up having your brook trout, tiger trout. As
Sure.
some people will end up getting to some of those, as we have places that have both brooks and brown trout in them. We also have got Arctic grayling, which blows a lot of people's mind, and also your species of cutthroat. So I'm not sure which exact strain we have, but it really allows you to be able to end up getting out and explore.
Yeah.
Now it's not gigantic, big water that a lot of people think about when they think about your Montanas or Washingtons. It tends to be small, a little bit more technical fishing, which gets you away from the crowds and definitely gives you some beautiful views.
Yeah. Or, Oliver, you were written up in an Orvis article as being that, that first kid to complete level 1. How did that feel?
Yeah, it felt really good actually. I'm in a program called FFA at my local school, and I was able to tell everyone about it. They actually want me to. I'm still in that program, and they want me to go and apply for different awards, like through my SAE through that.
Nice. Yeah, that's great. Okay, now how old were you when you completed level 1?
I think like around 14 or 15.
Okay, and how old are you now?
I am 16 years old, and I turned 17 in February.
Okay. All right. We're recording this at 6 o'clock your time. Did you get your homework done tonight?
I did, yes.
Okay. Very good. We don't want to mess up any grades here by doing a podcast together. Glad you guys are here on the phone with me. So, all right. Well, let's just start with, what is the Western Native Trout Challenge, and why did you guys take this on?
So I guess I'll take that one. The Western Native Trout Challenge is actually initiative that was set up by the Western states, where they end up looking and kind of partnering together to be able to providing native wild species within their home ranges as a way to be able to end up getting some money, but also educating the public regarding it. And we actually, I don't want to say we fell into it, but I had completed the Arizona Trout Challenge and ultimately was doing a father, son, and grandfather trip to the Beartooth Wilderness of Montana.
Love that area.
And so essentially we signed up, the three of us, my dad, my obviously my son and myself, signed up as, hey, this is our great adventure. We're going to go on together, and essentially made the trip. And I never expected to complete it. It was, hey, this has been kind of fun. Obviously, we believe in wild fish. We really enjoy wild fish, and we'll kind of go on from there. And so that was kind of the start. It wasn't something that necessarily that I think either one of us expected to play as big of a role as it has in our lives, of just enjoyment and memories.
Yeah.
But essentially, that was actually the start. It was being with my dad and my son, of us making that trip and backpacking into the wilderness.
Yeah, that's cool. That's cool. Okay, and what are the regulations? Like, what do you have to do to finish level 1, 2, and 3?
So each level is set up specifically with a number of species of fish that you have to catch. So every state, as you go around to their website, you will end up seeing every state has specific species that are allowed to be caught in those different states. And then they'll end up telling you, here's some of the areas that potentially, these fish are going to be. And so as you start as you end up starting it, you end up going to, buying your fishing license and making your way to the appropriate places to be able to end up catching the fish.
Okay. And there's all kinds of resources online, I noticed, from these different states on just what you said, like what kind of fish are available and where you can get them typically. Is that right?
Yeah, exactly. And so what you'll find is that some of the states will have some crossovers. So in the beginning, as you're starting the challenge, it's not necessarily a big concern, but as you end up getting towards the very end, essentially you end up having, one example would be Yellowstone cutthroat. Yellowstone cutthroat are found in Montana, they're found in Wyoming, they're found in Utah. They're found in multiple different states.
Yeah.
And so you have to kind of be more strategic as to realizing that, hey, I can only count a Yellowstone cutthroat in one of these states as a whole. And so you have to be a little bit more specific as you get to that final level as to, all right, I need to use this fish for this. And so, myself, I've caught that Yellowstone in 3 different states, but I was only able to use it for one of the states.
Okay, I get you. All right, so take some planning here. Now, how many years, Ben, were you at this? Because you've completed all 3 levels, and that means, I said in my intro, what is it, 18 species of trout in 12 states?
It is. It is accurate, and I did it a level a year. So the first year would end up being a total of 6 species in 4 states.
Okay.
The second year I completed was going to be 8 species in 8 states, and then the final was the 18 species in the 12 states.
Okay. Did you ever, figure out like how many vacation days you burned to do this, or like how many weeks did it take you to do? I mean, how did you get your wife to agree to let you do this? That's what I really want to know.
Well, she is an incredible fisherman as well, and so as Oliver has gotten older, we realize that we only have so much time with our children, and so we've really tried to make sure we make time for that. Now,
okay.
Oliver, the reason why he has not completed the whole challenge is that the 2 trips that I took to complete it, my wife was with me and has completed those states that Oliver is missing. So she was very gracious and allowed us to be able to end up, making trips with me and Oliver, and allowed us to be able to create some memories that we'll always have together. But
yeah,
she is actually an incredible fisherwoman herself, and has graciously, stepped back. But in that, a lot of these trips are weekend trips, and so it's us leaving on a Thursday night and driving through the night to get to some of these different places, and then making our way back on a Sunday because he has school on Monday or something along those lines.
Okay. Sounds like Oliver might have played hooky a couple Fridays here, huh?
Yeah. Actually, I don't have school Fridays. My school doesn't have it, so it's been very fortunate.
Okay. So, Oliver, what did you think of all this when this was? It sounds like you got invited on that Montana trip with your dad and grandfather, and then it kind of morphed into the trout challenge. What were you thinking about all this?
I actually really like to go out. I get to see a lot of different things that I haven't been able to see. I get to see new places, experience different things. It's something that I really like to do. I like to travel. I was able to catch fish, and I think it's something that's very unique to me. I like doing it. It's something that I love to do.
Yeah. Okay. Wait, so when did you learn to fly fish?
So I kind of picked it up and kind of dropped it, and then did my life, and then came back to it every now and then. I started getting more serious in it. I'd say when I started to do the Arizona Trout Challenge.
Okay.
So something kind of to add on to that. So Oliver, we were a part of a fly fishing club here in Arizona, and Oliver ended up going to our annual banquet and won a rod. And so in that aspect, like many people, once they have the rod, there's a desire to be able to end up, hey, I want to catch something with my rod. This is my rod. And so it kind of started in that aspect of initially us going out and fishing for Gila trout one of our native species here in the state, and essentially him catching a Gila trout that ended up actually becoming our for the group we were part of actually was our part of our flyer. And so it was in Cabela's and Bass Pro Shops, as well as Sportsman's Warehouses and things. So he's been the face of fly fishing in Arizona in different ways, just from that standpoint. But it all started with a club,
one fly rod,
that him putting his name in and getting drawn, and then going on from there. And then with the love that I have for fly fishing, my wife has for fly fishing, essentially he's been tagging along. He didn't have a choice when he was a little younger, and so essentially has now been able to end up growing in and has made trips with me to different fly fishing events and some of those kind of things, which has allowed him to be able to work on his cast. And I think the reality is, and maybe you disagree with this, Oliver, but Dad doesn't know everything, and so someone else knows a lot more than Dad does. And so even if Dad tells him something, hearing it from someone else sometimes gets a different result.
What do you think of that, Oliver?
Yeah, I don't know. It's not. Yeah, no, he definitely has been able to teach me a lot of things. There's been times where I'm like, I don't like this, but
yeah,
it's all worked out.
Lucky you got a dad who is a fishing guide. That's pretty awesome.
Yeah.
Hey anglers, are you looking for a darn near perfect cup of coffee to start your day? Then do yourself a favor and check out anglerscoffee.com. That's right, Anglers Coffee is made by anglers for anglers, delivered to your doorstep, one batch at a time. They start with the very best coffee beans selected for their great flavor and responsible growing methods. Then each batch is roasted fresh daily. The result is a wide selection of roast styles that will satisfy the most discerning coffee lover. And now you can enjoy Angler's Coffee anywhere, anytime with the Dry Dropper single-serving coffee in a tea bag. Just add water. And this isn't your mother's instant coffee. It's a single serving of carefully dark-roasted, fresh ground and nitro-sealed coffee. A percentage of each sale goes to some great nonprofit organizations that directly impact the fly fishing community. So head on over to anglerscoffee.com to check out their great selection of coffee and the organizations they support. If you're not 100% satisfied, they'll give you your money back, no questions asked. That's Angler's Coffee. It's darn near perfect. All right, now I want to ask you guys, so there's 18 species of fish in this challenge, and we've talked about Apache and Gila trout. There's Arctic char, there's grayling, there's bull char, multiple bull trout, multiple species of cuts, and some kind of little-known species like the Kern River rainbow and the Eagle Lake rainbow. I got to believe the diversity of the destinations you all went to was pretty amazing. Ben, what do you think?
No, it has been. And that's one of those things where each one of these trips that we've made, when we started out the trout challenge, the initial thought process is, hey, we're going to catch these species of fish, or we're going to go to some of these places and catch some of these pieces of fish. And that the end goal is catching the fish. And that's the mindset initially that I had. The more that the challenge went on, the less it was about catching the fish. It was more the journey. So it ended up becoming those places that we've seen that most of the country and most of the world will never see some of these places because of the back roads that we've driven on to get to some of these little creeks and places along those lines. The wildlife that we've seen, whether it be us, fishing a lake and having, osprey come down and try to catch fish, and us being spooked because of all of a sudden we weren't expecting this gigantic splash, and then you see, it heading away, or whether it be bears or us being on a stream and, seeing moose and being like, okay, we need to give them a little bit more of space. Or
Ben, we got to hear some of these stories. We I want to double click on some of these because that sounds awesome. Can you kind of, give us, I don't know, maybe your best, you talk about bears and moose, like where did you guys bump into bears and moose, and did you have kind of a sticky situation, or what happened there?
Oliver, why don't you take the moose one?
Yeah, so when we were hiking and backpacking in the Beartooth Wilderness, we went upstream to this lake. I'm not sure what it's called, just so we can go and catch, because we found out that there was going to be like different types of species of fish that are there because we were camped at Lost Lake, I think it was called.
Yeah.
So basically, when we went up there, we caught some fish, and then heading on our way down, we decided to go downstream and just kind of look at the stream, being able to look at the mountains, being able to look at the river, and across the stream we saw a moose.
Oh, nice.
A bull moose. So
okay.
Yeah, it wasn't a female moose. It was a bull moose with his antlers, and he was actually sitting in the middle of the creek or a river, depending on where you're from as to the size of things. But it made for some pretty incredible experiences from our standpoint of making sure that we gave some space. Moose to me, they scare me.
They're dangerous.
Not so much bears. I mean, obviously Alaska, is a different story, but moose and mountain lions are the two things that obviously put a little bit of a little bit of chill in my spine.
Right.
Because there is no flight of a moose. It's fight, and that's the option, like an elephant. And so we end up making sure that we end up taking a wide berth and appreciated just the experience, and obviously snapped a couple of pictures, and then went on our way. And kind of as Oliver shared with you initially, we were fishing a lake that had Arctic grayling in it as well as cutthroat, and I found out that another lake and creek upstreams had brook trout in it. And I have, being from the East Coast, at least working on that area, I have a love for brook trout, and so in that aspect, anytime that I have the ability to have one of those fish in my hand and having the ability to just see how beautiful the blues and the pinks and
they're beautiful
halos are, I'll hike a little extra to catch a brook trout.
Yeah, I'm with you. All right, so you guys saw that moose. Have you seen any mountain lions in your travels?
I have never seen any mountain lions in our travels. That is not to say that they've not been around. Kind of a funny story as we talk about bears. So I have seen bears a number of times, but I found out that my dad, essentially as we were staying in the Beartooth Wilderness, which was the first trip that started this whole process, I had cut a good amount of wood, and we were setting up and about to go to bed. And my dad kept throwing logs on the fire over and over and over again. I said, "What are you doing? Like we're going to bed. Why do you keep throwing more and more logs on it?" Well, turns out he was very fearful that a bear would end up coming into our campsite.
Oh yeah, is that right?
And then so he continued to do it, and so we've obviously joked. I said, I did not realize that my dad was a pyro. He was a pyro.
Yeah.
Because he kept throwing in wood after wood after wood after wood, and in that aspect, without him putting the work into cutting the wood or finding the wood, he had no problem just going and putting through our wood,
that's hilarious.
Which was pretty funny.
So what are some of your favorite places? Oliver, let me start with you. What was your favorite place that you went to?
One of my favorite places that I went to is definitely going to be Durango, Colorado. Colorado is beautiful. We went during the summertime, so we were able to do alpine sledding. So that was really fun. But yeah, no, it's so beautiful.
Yeah. Did you get up into the San Juans a little bit? Did you hike up into the San Juans from Durango?
No. What was it? I think we went behind. There's a ski resort. We went behind there, followed the road behind there, and there's a little creek.
Okay. What were you chasing in that area? What kind of trout?
I think it was the Colorado River cutthroat.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. And did you get one on that trip?
Yes, it was actually it was probably one of my favorite places I got to fish. Like every cast is almost a fish.
Really?
It was to the point where I set up my phone on a nearby tree and took a video of me casting and being able to catch a fish, reel it in.
Just like every cast.
It was awesome.
Yeah. Was that your best as far as numbers go? Was that your best day?
I don't know if that would be my best day. I think that the Kern, I was catching a lot of different fish for the California kern.
Yeah.
You got quite a bit
the rainbow,
there.
yeah.
Okay.
Well, one of the things with this challenge is the fish haven't always been big. Now there have been, very large fish that we've caught in each one of these places, but a lot of the times they are small little gems where you catch a lot of fish because the places that we're fishing are tend to be very exclusive.
Small, right?
Yeah, and so in that aspect, fish don't get to be quite as picky, and so if you end up presenting a good cast and get your fly in, the fish tend to be very opportunistic, and so in that aspect, we many times caught a number of species, a number of fish at each location prior to us moving on to other locations.
I get you. Okay.
But Colorado for Oliver definitely was probably his most consistent of larger fish, in the 10 to 15 inch range.
Great
consistently
fish. Yeah.
Where him catching those, which are a lot of fun and make for a good day when you can make a bad cast and still get rewarded with a fish.
A backcast. You caught a fish on a backcast?
Yes, I did. Yeah, no,
Is
and
that
it's
right?
also
On purpose?
The fish are beautiful too. Like they are so pretty.
That's awesome. Huge news, folks. The #1 fishing app, and I'm talking Trout Routes here, has been updated to include the entire lower 48. That's 50,000 streams mapped and classified into 4 categories and 350,000 hand-curated public access points marked and ready for you to explore. There's nothing more exciting than finding that new trout stream or access point. I'm a huge fan of Trout Routes because they make it so easy. Say goodbye to stumbling around country roads looking for your next spot, because Trout Routes provides every detail you need for each stream, including public and private bridges, stream flows, trail access, where to park, camping opportunities, boat ramps, and more. No service, no problem. You can save maps for offline use. With Trout Routes, I've found dozens of new streams and access points I never would have known about. So what are you waiting for? Sign up for Trout Routes today on your Apple or Android phone. Oliver, what was the toughest fish you caught? Maybe the one that caused you the biggest problem, was the most challenging fish that you caught.
So it wasn't necessarily like just me, but we were actually in Washington. And we were hiking to catch coastal cutthroats, and kept on catching fish. We were like, this is not a cutthroat. Like we're almost searching for that little red mark that would just be able to describe it as being a cutthroat. So that was when we were fishing with 2 of our friends, and they were able to catch 2 before we were. But we're like, we're catching all these fish, but we don't know what they are.
Okay, they're trout, but you're not sure if it's a coastal. Is that what you're saying?
Well, yeah. So that's they look like trout, but we weren't sure if they're cutthroat. And then we actually ended up checking with one of our friends, and he ended up telling us that it's probably going to be baby steelhead.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah.
So you coastal cutthroat. I'm not familiar with this species. So where do you find those? Are they in rivers that are right near the coast there, or how far? Yeah, where do you find those?
So there are some sea run cutthroat that do happen, but coastal cutthroat essentially are found in rivers, creeks that are within 25 miles of the coast.
Okay.
Are where they're found, and so where he's sharing with you is we were fishing at a creek, and we were killing it. It was constant fish after fish after fish after fish after fish. And, I kind of joke with Oliver, we were squinting, I think if I squint, I can see an orange mark. This is a coastal cutthroat. But earlier in our trip, we had been in Oregon and had caught, one of the species of trout called the red band, which are also found in a number of other states. And they're basically a rainbow trout subspecies. And so we're looking at them, and we're constantly catching what we're classifying as red band. Potentially, if we squint, we can see an orange mark that is not there. Yeah, I'm sure this is a coastal cutthroat. Yeah, it's got to be. And turns out that we have one of our connections actually works for Washington, Fish and Game, and we reached out to him to just say, you know what, we're missing one fish. Essentially, I'm missing one fish. All I had left to complete the whole challenge was that coastal cutthroat, and so it was initially thinking, hey, if this is a red band, we'll go to Oregon, and I'll end up fishing because Oregon's a little closer to our house in Arizona. I'll catch a coastal cutthroat in Oregon, and that will be a win-win. Of hey, I'll use Washington for my red band, and I'll use Oregon for my coastal cutthroat. And all of a sudden, as we're having this conversation, we're talking about the pock marks and things along those lines. It comes out that actually everything you're catching are not, they're essentially they're baby steelhead or what they are. And so we are catching, this species that for us was just extremely frustrating without sounding bad. But when you have that last fish and it's kind of that monkey on your back, you're thinking, this is not what I want to catch. I'm not enjoying this to the fullest extent that normally I would be.
Right. How did you end up did you go to Oregon and get the coastal cutthroat?
We did not. We actually end up started to head towards Oregon, and we're driving down the coast, and essentially with a friend of ours and his son that we've done, like we did the California trip with them, and then we end up doing this Oregon Washington trip with them, and so he's a great planner and really on top of things, and his son was actually the second individual to complete the first and the second stage under the age of 18, and that's kind of one of the neat things of Oliver and I have inspired other dads and sons or dads and daughters or those kind of things to be able to go out and make those memories together. But I regress. We're driving and end up finding out that, oh, actually you're catching steelhead. So for us to count it, it wouldn't count. And so I'd have to make a trip back to Washington. So we opted to grab dinner at a pub of some sort and ended up actually spending the night in the truck. And the next morning, Oliver and I woke up and ended up actually hiking up a creek up to a high lakes mountain that ended up having these coastal cutthroat, where I felt comfortable with after the previous day of catching all of these fish, but them being the wrong fish. Hey, if I end up getting a pull on that line, I know it's going to be the species that I need.
It's going to be the right one.
And so we did that, and Oliver outfished me that last day and ended up, catching his fish first, and I had the ability to net it, and then he sat in the bank and watched, and kind of it gave me a little bit of a hard time of.
Yeah, this is easy,
the
Dad.
fact that I haven't completed. Hey, Dad, well, it's not that hard.
Hey, Oliver, how do you see that story? Is that an accurate depiction of what happened?
Yeah, it is not. How I see it, I remember waking up like super early. We hiked quite a bit. I was like, are we there yet? Are we there yet? Are we there yet? But yeah, like, where is this stupid lake? No, and we finally got there, got in the water. And after a while, you started to get some bites, and I was like, okay, this is achievable. I got this. And then after like being in there for maybe like 5-10 minutes, I was like, man, my legs are like so cold. Like, why is this water so cold? I'm like, is this a fish? Is this a fish? So yeah, no. Once I caught that fish, I was out. I just watched him. He climbed onto the logs. I was like, what you doing?
Yeah, and just watching Dad then, huh?
Yeah.
That's pretty cool. Now, I heard that you were able to teach your grandpa some things about fly fishing. Can you tell us about that?
Yeah, so that was one of our first trips when we went to Montana. That was actually something that I really, it's very close to my heart. So basically, we were going, and my grandpa brought this just a regular fishing pole, and he started catching fish on that, and me and my dad were fly fishing. And then he was like, hey, can I try to fly fish? And my dad was like, yeah, why don't Oliver go out and like kind of teach him how to do it. So I kind of had him over basically where the lake was feeding out,
Yep.
and had him get behind a rock, and I was like, no, you need to get low, like, and so he kind of like lowered his shoulders a little bit.
So hold on. I want to real quick bring something up. So Oliver had actually gone by himself and tried to fish this little creek that was coming off prior, and as we were fishing, and he came back and said, I'm just really struggling. And so I ended up taking Oliver over and kind of guided him a little bit, and he got into the fish. And so kind of where this is now taking place is I guided Oliver, helped Oliver get into the fish. Oliver then took my dad and guided my dad, and essentially was telling him and trying to do the same things I had shared with him to do, to have my dad try to do. So go ahead, Oliver.
That's awesome.
Yeah, no. So I was just telling him, I was like, all right, you need to get low behind this rock so they can't really see you. And so he just kind of lowers his shoulders a little bit, and I was like, no, you need to get like lower. He's like, I don't think I could get much lower. Like, just try to. And then he got to the point where he can't really even see the river or the creek. He's like, can't really see it. I was like, just go and put the rod over it. I think he was it nymphing? Was it what he's doing, Dad?
No, it was a dry fly. So the two of them were on the far side, and I was probably about 25 yards away, and watching, and I saw the fish come up and take it, and I yelled, set the hook.
Oh, really? Okay.
Go ahead, Oliver. Go ahead.
Yeah, no. So once he said set the hook, he didn't really expect the fish to not be as big as he was expecting. So he like set the hook, like he yanked the rod.
Yeah, he bassmastered it, and here comes this little 5-inch trout out of the water, and then Oliver's got the net in his hand, trying to net a fish that essentially is up in the air, stuck on.
Need a catcher's glove. Oh my gosh. Wow. Well, that must have been a pretty cool moment for you.
Yeah, it was for me, it was a really neat experience to be able to end up seeing my son, teach and show, and be able to have there be success where each one of us had some part in the overall success, which is pretty neat.
Yeah, that's really cool. Well, let's, just one thing I really wanted to do is just let you guys kind of talk about, other experiences that really stuck out in your mind in all these travels. So I don't know, Ben, if you've got a, experience you want to share?
Yeah, I'll jump on it. So essentially we kind of did, as I shared with you, we did different legs because there's not the ability, at least with my work schedule, to just be able to end up taking off and not having responsibilities or even a cost of not being home and working. And so the first leg that we made, we did was essentially, Arizona, which obviously starting at home, and then we went into New Mexico and caught 2 species in New Mexico, and then ended up in Colorado. So that was the first leg, which allowed us to obviously get that first stage. The second stage was into California, and Oliver kind of talked a little bit about the Kern rainbow, where there's a number of them, or even the golden trout, which are just absolutely stunning. But probably for me, the biggest one that stood out would be kind of the finish of the second level for us. So it was actually our trip to Nevada, and a lot of times, very much like Arizona, Nevada is a desert, and there's no fish here, except there is some amazing, beautiful water and things that, as a number of other individuals have made their way into Nevada and seen the upper northern part, is just, I don't know how to describe it. It is so beautiful, and at the same time rugged. There's no cell phone signal. There's no any of those kind of things. And so essentially from Elko up, you just get into just nothingness and mountains, and just makes for a good time. So we went to go catch Lahontan cutthroat, and Nevada, of all of the states, was really hard, at least from my standpoint, was really hard to try to find information, because Nevada is not the place that most people think about fishing.
Right.
Outside of maybe some bass stuff that would be in your big lakes, that would be there. It's just not thought of. And so trying to do all this research, there just wasn't a lot of information. And so we went to go catch the Houghton, and we spent about 6 hours hiking through willows in these little creeks, me catching creek chubs after creek chub after creek chub.
That's a lot of fun.
And it was a lot of fun, and seeing grouse left up. It was the first time Oliver, I think, ever saw, the cranes aspect of things.
Sure.
So we were just out in the middle of nowhere fishing for these Lahoutons, and it turns out that we were not far enough, or I shouldn't say, we were not high enough to where they were at. So we ended up calling it early and ended up going and grabbing some dinner. And I reached out to, there's a fly shop that's in Elko, and I said, I went in this area, and the gentleman ended up sharing, he said, you just weren't high enough, Ben. And so I said, okay, which as a part of this challenge, there is that aspect of it. You may know the place that they're at, but it takes additional knowledge to make sure that you're in the right place to catch some of these things, whether it be fish barriers that may be in place, or even in our particular case, we just weren't high enough where the water was cold. And so he ended up giving that information. And so we ended up making our way up to some beaver ponds and ended up catching and getting into some Lahoughton, which turned out to be an absolute amazing day catching,
nice.
Everything was caught on top with hoppers in some of these little beaver ponds, which made for an amazing trip. And then I said, Oliver, it's time to go, bud. We got to go. And so we essentially took there and went all the way up into where the Jarbridge area, and caught red bands. And my goal was to get into a bull trout. That's Nevada is the lowest state that bull trout are found that are wild. And so that was really my goal. I was like, I want a bull trout in Nevada. I want a bull trout in Nevada. And needless to say, we were bushwhacking and bushwhacking and bushwhacking and bushwhacking, and Oliver, he was done. He was like, this is not fun. I don't enjoy this. We're never going to catch the fish we're going to catch. And he had one species left that he needed to catch. And so I looked at my son and said, are you ready to head out? And he said, yeah, I'm ready to head out. And so we packed up, hiked all the way back out, jumped in our truck and drove to Utah, spent the night in our truck, and woke up the next morning, and he ended up catching the Bonneville, in the Salt Lake area.
Yeah.
And he completed the second level or second stage of that. So we put thousands and thousands of miles as we've done some of these different trips, but that is definitely one that stands out of, kind of that first time of us having diversity.
Right.
Because California was pretty easy. And obviously, New Mexico and Arizona are I don't want to say our home waters, but we're very comfortable with those areas versus Nevada, where it was kind of the unknown. And so that was definitely one of the highlights for me.
Yeah. Oliver, what about you? What other experiences really stick out in your mind?
I'm probably one of the first ones. Completed the first one. We were trying to catch the Colorado. No, not the Colorado. Sorry. We left really early in the morning. I just got out of school like the day before, and then we were just basically. I wasn't even too sure. I was like, let's just go do this. I'm ready to go see things. And we were basically almost surviving off of Pop-Tarts, just in the car, just kept on driving. Just
Pop-Tarts?
Yeah, just always going. And we finally
I think we talked earlier, my wife wasn't with us. So Pop-Tarts it was. It's food on the go that I don't have to make sure I keep warm or cool. I don't know that there's ever an expiration date for Pop-Tarts.
I think they're banned in some countries, though. But besides that, let's see them. Oliver, sorry, go ahead. I want to hear your story.
No. And then it was just basically like it stood out to me because I wasn't really too sure what's going to happen next. We got there, we were hiking completely in the dark just to try to get closer to the creek.
And where are you going? Sorry, what state are you in? Where you at, Oliver?
Yeah, this was in Arizona for
Arizona.
our
Okay.
Apache trout, which is actually
Okay.
the only state that fish is found in the country.
Apache
The
trout. Okay,
world.
gotcha.
Actually, the only place in the world it's found.
Okay. Sorry, go ahead, Oliver.
Yeah, no. So then after we were able to catch the Apache, we went to New Mexico, and New Mexico was also a trip because that was like I don't know if we even were on the right path a couple times because we just were using the full capabilities of the 4x4. We
Nice.
were going uphill. I couldn't even stay on my seat half the time. Like I'm like jumping around because the car is bouncing so much.
That's great. Oh man. Okay. And were you in the northern part of New Mexico?
We were not. We were actually in the middle part of New Mexico. So
Oh.
actually in the Gila area, there's the
Okay.
Gila Mountains. That would be, from the Arizona side of things, you've got alpine, and you end up heading across into New Mexico, and for the Gila trout. And so, as kind of Oliver stated, I had made this trip by myself initially, and I was following GPS the second time with Oliver, and I said, this doesn't feel right as we're on the side of a mountain overlooking, and there was
man.
no ability to turn around. And I said, I guess we're going forward. And, using, as he said, using my 4x4 to be able to end up, making our way slowly
Holy smokes.
to be able to end up getting to where the creek ultimately ended up being at.
Okay. And Oliver, were you like biting your fingernails down to nothing when this was going on?
Yeah, no. By the end of the trip, I was like, am I good? Do I need to like my fingernails are gone? Yeah, no, it was bad.
But you got some Gila trout.
Yes, we did. Yeah, no, that was nice. It was pretty much a easier fish to catch, but yeah, no. Kind of with talking about Gila, I was able to help Arizona Game and Fish help repopulate the Gila trouts. So
Really? How
that was
so?
pretty cool. We went back. Yeah, so we went a couple of years ago there's a bunch of fires in Arizona.
Yep.
It kind of helped kill out most of the Gila trout, and we were able to go after that. And through Game and Fish, went back into different canyons and carried fish on their backs. And
Good job.
yeah, basically just went down, stalked them into the creeks, and then hiked back up. And that was something I thought was really fun too.
Yeah, good for
We did it a
you.
couple other times, but yeah, it's just talking about Gilas. Anyways, back to the New Mexico Rio Grande. That was in a river, and that was when we got there. We had to hike down into the river, and it was not really a lot. Like it was. I was casting. I was like, I'm not really seeing a lot at the beginning. And then I finally caught one, and I was like, oh, I finally got one. I hooked a fish and reeled it in. It turned out it was brook trout.
Oh, good. In the Rio Grande.
Yeah, So I was like, I don't think this is the right fish. But then we were able to get another fish, and that was pretty nice. Kept on fishing, having some fun around the lake, and then we ended up hiking out and started going to Colorado, and that's where I already told the story.
Okay.
Went behind the ski resorts, and were able to catch so much fish. It was really fun.
Oh, that's great. Real quick, Ben, how do you prove you caught a fish of a certain species?
So we just take pictures of them. Yeah, no, we we've had some fun taking pictures of the different fish. Like,
Okay.
So what you do is essentially you take a picture of the fish, and on the Western Native, as you sign up for this challenge, you're given a link that allows you to be able to filling out. Here is the state that we caught the fish in. Here's the creek that we caught the fish in. Did you catch it on a fly? Did you catch it on a lure of some sort? Did you keep the fish? Did you release the fish? And what you then are doing is they're taking all of that data and essentially then using it for their own records. But it also there's an aspect of, yes, catching the fish is important and matters, but it really is that journey aspect that really becomes, I don't want to say more important than the fish, but it does. It's that journey, that experience that for me personally has been the most satisfying thing of watching. And as we've been on this podcast and having a conversation with you, it's reliving those things, whether it be, us running into a moose, or whether it be us waking up at 3 a.m. and driving, or whether it be, that osprey, or whether it be bald eagles, or, even some of the hiccups we ran into of, what do you mean it's another steelhead? It's that aspect of things where each one of those carries different memories with them, and almost the fish becomes a byproduct of just the journey that we went on, that we're different after making some of these trips than we were prior to them.
I love that. Oliver, what about you? What did all this mean for you?
Yeah, no, it's something that I think really, I love, as I said earlier, I love to be able to see different things. I love nature. I've gotten into photography. I'm glad that I've been able to experience the things that I've been able to experience.
Good. And then I bet you and your dad had some good conversations through all these thousands of miles you traveled.
Yeah, no, that was fun. That and a lot of music, being able to stop at different places. We really packed through it.
Yeah, you have really seen a lot in your 16 years.
I remember him sleeping more than I remember him talking.
Yeah, right.
If we're honest.
Uh-huh.
Dad was the one putting in the miles behind the wheel.
Right. If speaking of music, I mean, do you listen to the same stuff, or was that kind of a point of contention at times?
I think that both of us have a very wide range of music taste. So
Okay.
no matter what we put on, really, we both enjoy it. Most of the time we listen to his music. I don't really care. I love his music too.
Yeah. Yeah.
So we've also, even as we did one of this last trip, we ended up listening to a book on tape. So, so that was one of those things. We're just trying a different aspect of having some memories as we're driving and listening to books.
Yeah. I love your philosophy there, Ben, because you and I talked just before Christmas time, and do you remember what you told me about experiences versus presents?
Go ahead and refresh my memory.
All right. So I love this. And I actually brought this up with my family. You were saying, I believe in experiences. That I think you said you and your family don't really exchange gifts at Christmas, that you do experiences, something along those lines. So I have that right?
Yep, that's accurate. Yeah. So our daughter ended up having some medical things when she was younger, and it kind of, I don't want to say it changed things, but it all of a sudden looked and said, we don't know how much time we have. And so in that aspect, as we go back to my wife and just her being gracious and allowing for us to do things, as the kids were really little, we realized there has to be something under the tree. And so we did, 4 presents, something they need, something to read, something to wear, and something, basically, I don't know the exact saying. But as the kids got older, we ended up just looking and saying, let's make memories as a family. And that is going to go a lot farther. So whether it be my daughter, had an opportunity to play with penguins. And so my wife was able to go and spend some time and play with penguins as well, but also have that experience with her. Or Oliver, when he was a little younger, we ended up doing indoor skydiving. So we try to do things. We've done some cruises as a family, but each one of those things has led to memories that we have that, you know what, I don't know that I have tomorrow. I hope I have a lot more time, because there's a lot more goals that I have and things I'd like to accomplish. But we just really looked and said, what matters in life, and the reality is the rat race. Everyone wants more and more and more and more and more, and you never have enough. But the reality is I think when you talk with people that have lived their life, the regrets they have is they've not spent as much time with people they've loved. They've not made the memories because they were so focused on consumerism. And not that there's anything wrong with getting things or enjoying things. I think I think I need a new fly rod. I think I need to do this. So it's not bad to want more, but at what cost? And so we as a family have really taken that mindset. And so, have made memories that hopefully the kids have grown up and essentially now I'm seeing, even this last Christmas, Oliver giving a gift of an experience to his sister that, as a father, we look and say, we hope that we're doing okay. We hope that we're leading by example. and to be able to end up seeing, something along those lines, just really warms my heart.
Yeah, it's awesome. Yeah, I love what you're saying, and you couldn't have said it better. I was talking to a friend of mine who's a pastor and a counselor, and he was talking about most people are climbing the wrong mountain. They want to climb that mountain of accumulation, and at some point they kind of stop and realize, man, I'm climbing the wrong mountain. I need to be on a different one, and that may be some kind of a giving back thing, or kind of living for others, and or having experiences with people you love.
Yeah.
So we adjusted our Christmas here at the Egg House because of what you said to me before Christmas time. I don't think my family knows that, but yeah, we did. Yeah, I took my family downtown and we did some things downtown, and yeah, rather than a bunch of presents, I can't remember what people gave me for Christmas last year, and I'm trying to, remember what they gave it to me this year, and that was, 2 weeks ago. So,
so do you regret your decision, or
no, not at all.
Do you 100% stand behind it?
Totally, yeah, and they loved it. They absolutely loved it. It was the best Christmas we've had in years, honestly, and it wasn't because of everybody got piles of gifts, like I said, that sit in a corner, and half of them you don't even use. So. Ben, I want to ask you about your background, and kind of, you grew up out east, and your dad was a pastor, correct?
Yeah. So I grew up actually in Chicago, on the south side of Chicago, which is the trout mecca of the world.
Yeah, right.
Considering there are no trout actually found outside of Lake Michigan, and so I grew up a pastor's kid, and many days were spent going to our local pond, catching largemouth bass, turtles, obviously, fish and crayfish and all kinds of things. I was very much an outdoor kid, and essentially felt like any rod that you gave me, with any lure you gave me, I could catch fish, and it prompted me to kind of challenge myself to learn something else. And so I ended up buying the Bass Pro Shop special of $50 for a 7-weight, or actually it was an 8-weight rod. Once again, me having absolutely no clue at all what I was doing, but this one looked pretty and it was cheap. And so that was my very first rod. And I still remember casting and catching bluegills with flies that,
with an 8-weight rod.
With an 8-weight rod.
Oh my gosh!
So
talk about
those
setting
poor
a hook.
little fish, and I'd watched on TV that you're supposed to play the fish, and so there I am, essentially, not even bringing the fish in, but letting the line drag the fish down, for lack of a better word, because I didn't know what I was doing. And essentially, obviously, I've come a long way with help from friends and relationships, and to be able to really pass on a lot of knowledge and experience to other people, whether it be through the clubs that we've been a part of, or even, as Oliver shared, there's been a number of times that we've partnered and actually helped with Game and Fish to be able to end up going and putting fish into some of these creeks to be able to end up helping hopefully establish populations that would then in turn allow for individuals to be able to making and actually catching these fish as a whole. So it kind of started out there, and then I ended up then at some point in time making my way up into Washington, and I'm not Washington, up into Wisconsin, and fishing the driftless area, which was a whole nother level of understanding undercut banks, and realizing how you need to be a little more stealthy than you do for bluegills, because you'd spook fish, and all of a sudden everything's gone. And and then obviously at some point in time made my way to New York, where I was worked for Al Cucci and the Delaware River Club, and that was an amazing experience, and actually really taught me a lot about entomology, essentially on the Delaware River. Insects really determine the success that you have, and obviously your casting abilities, and so was able to get much better at my casting abilities, obviously reading water, fly selection, tying flies. That was something that was an amazing experience. And then made my way to Arizona, and I guess you say the rest is history, as obviously I look and see the next generation and successes and memories we've all been able to make together.
That's really cool. Okay, in our last little section here, what I would like to do is talk a little bit more about the technical aspects of fishing. Like what, I don't know, what did you learn on this trip, and what styles of fishing were you doing? Were there points in time where you had to go down to 6 or 7X? How selective were the fish? Because I think in some cases you were fishing streams that were only a foot and a half wide. In other cases, it sounds like you were fishing large bodies of water. So what can you tell us about that?
Yeah, so there was some technical aspect of things. I am kind of a weird guy. I like a long rod. Essentially, I did a lot of Euro nymphing is one of the things I do a lot of.
Okay.
And so within that is heavier flies, but within that I'm able to end up getting into places that you may not necessarily normally be able to get a cast into. So in that aspect, that's one of the things I do is heavier flies and Euro nymphing to try to be able to end up getting down into things. I love dry fly fishing. I think Oliver does as well.
Mm-hmm.
That's probably our favorite way to fish. And so we do fish a lot of terrestrials, but depending on the water, kind of determined which method we opted to go with. We do carry, one rod, but I do have multiple spools that are there that allows me to be able to end up changing up what rod we end up, what line we end up using. One of the neat things that happened was when Oliver completed the first level of the challenge, Orvis gifted him an H3. And so that was something that was a neat experience for him to be able to end up having that. And they allowed him to be able to end up getting some writing on it with his name and was definitely a neat experience. But that then in turn, guess what he wants to use for the second level? It was that rod. And so as he's completed that second level, that was it. And as we fish lakes and rivers, essentially that those levels of things, whether it be streamers, whether it be, dry flies, a lot of these places, it really is terrestrials, but some of those other places where you can't get in and actually make a cast, it really became that Euro nymphing, not dabbing, but kind of dabbing to be able to getting into different places to try to find a location where, if you can get your fly in the water, the fish are very opportunistic.
Yeah.
And
right.
so then it became, all right, I caught the fish. How do I get the fish out of this gnarl of weeds and branches that now are here? And there was more than once that we went into the water to be able to making sure that we captured the fish that we needed to capture because we didn't know when the next opportunity was going to be.
Yeah. Tell you what, tell me a little bit about the flies you're using, like size, color, pattern, that kind of thing. Did you have by the time you were all done with this, did you think, I probably could have taken these 10 flies and would have been fine just about anywhere? Or did you really have to get dialed into those local selections?
No, it was a lot of terrestrials. So we used a lot of ants. That was actually one of Oliver's favorite flies was ants or hoppers. So those were a big win.
What
that
size?
were tied with foam with size 16s, 16s or even 12s, depending
Really?
on if it was, a hopper versus an ant. So, fishing not small fly or not big flies, but not small flies, kind of that normal of where you're at that you can see. So there's that aspect. Oliver also, I kind of tie my own version of a squirmy wormy for him that has led himself to be able to end up that has become his favorite fly in a lot of different places because there's a lot of movement that comes from it. And I kind of tie it uniquely where I end up tying some loops into the squirmy wormy. I think anyone that has had them at some point in time has opened their box and found that the rubber is all over the place and that fly is now destroyed. And so I actually tie it with loops that allows for us to be able to changing out different colors. So I can throw a natural on, I can throw, like a brown, or I can throw pink, or I can throw a red, and I can swap out any color I want because ultimately so it's kind of a unique thing and that's been something that with some of these different places allows these fish are so well camouflaged that when all of a sudden you see the fly disappear because that pink stands out or red stands out as it's going in through 5 to 6 inches of water, you see it, and all of a sudden it's gone. You realize, oh, something ate it, and and so that's that's been something that he's enjoyed. Is a great simple fly that I've done.
Yep. Other patterns?
Other flies we did in California. Our last trip to Eagle Lake, the Rainbow, we ended up using a kind of a white streamer, so that ended up getting a lot of luck, as well as some seal leeches, in whether it be black or red, was also great. So I think I'm up to 6 or 7 flies right at this point in time, and then that honestly is really all that we used.
Were you doing much nymphing?
We did some nymphing, your hares, your pheasant tails, but really a lot of these places were dry flies, because once again, it's, hey, if you can get the fly in there, they're going to come up, and they're very opportunistic. The lake was a little bit different, where we obviously fish streamers, and then that the aspect of kind of that squirmy wormy version that I tie.
Okay.
Has been good, because I put actually even a little bit of weight into the, on the fly or on the hook itself. And then, I'm able to wrap it, and have had kind of a unique way of doing it. And, we can change out on the creek at any point in time of different things.
Sure.
Or if they, it kind of makes it fun and easy.
What's that white streamer look like?
It actually is the good old faithful of, what's it called, with basically the marabou,
Woolly bugger.
Yep, a woolly bugger. It's a white woolly bugger with a bead head. Yep, a white woolly bugger with a bead head on it. Kind of one of those first flies that you tie when you're first getting into
Right.
fly fishing, that works out well.
Works good.
That was the ticket for us. In that last stage of the Eagle River, and the fish tended to do pretty well on it, or Eagle Lake. Sorry, the fish tended to key on that, and it was kind of funny because I was once again that was the last trip. So we literally left in the middle of the night and drove the whole way to get to California, to fish that lake in the morning, and we're on the lake, and my buddy that was with us, his name was Sheldon, caught the first fish. And then Oliver caught the second fish, and then Sheldon's son crew caught the third fish, and there's me all by myself, not catching a fish. Oliver's like, "Dad, do you want to use my rod?" And I was,
Good job, Oliver.
We obviously like to give ourselves hard times. My wife gives it to me as well. When we were in Alaska, she caught the Dolly Varden first and a rainbow first, and she's like, "I probably should just stop fishing, so that you can catch fish." So
that's hilarious.
We definitely enjoy rousing each other and giving each other hard times. But at the end of the day, it's been a lot of fun and a lot of memories.
Let me ask you this. What's that? So a Dolly Varden, a lot of people get those confused with bull trout, but they are different species, correct?
Oh yeah, they're totally different species. So Dolly Varden are going to be found in Alaska. So you've got more people get them confused, not with bull trout, but actually get them confused with Arctic char. Because they can look very similar to each other, at different stages of life.
Okay, and how big do they get?
You know what? I have not caught very many of them. I've caught 3 of them.
Okay.
So
how big were they?
Yeah, I'd love to tell you I'm the expert in that field, but I am not. That would probably be one of your Alaskan guys that.
Yeah, we'll do that.
Whether it would be on the Kenai that they obviously get decent size.
Yeah. Okay. Tell me about your favorite hopper pattern?
My favorite hopper pattern actually would probably be the Morse. I tie that with just foam, and in that aspect, it tends to float like a cork. I do tie it a little bit different because I will throw on like a deer hair fluff on top to be able to end up giving myself a little bit better visibility, almost like a wing style.
I like that.
But more, that's, I think, more for me, just so I can see where it's at and possibly even fish a little bit farther away.
Yeah.
And know where my fly is at, or even giving myself a little bit of additional float if I were to decide that I want to put a drop underneath it.
Okay. What about your ant pattern? What's your favorite ant pattern?
You know what? Probably the Bionic ant. So some of your guests may have heard of these guys called Fly Fish Food, Cheech and Curtis, that kind of started this fly fish food thing, and they are some awesome guys, and be able to watch some of the innovation of them tying flies. I've learned an awful lot, and I don't want to say steal some of their patterns, because I think I don't think any of us have, at least I've not invented anything, but they are definitely innovative in the fly tying world for me.
There you go, folks.
And that's
good tip. That's a good tip.
Yeah, they're pretty neat.
So Oliver, did you get pretty good at tying knots?
Yeah, no, I actually I want to get into it, but I haven't really.
His dad ties a lot, ties all of his knots.
Well, tying fly, I was just curious if you got good at tying knots. I bet you did.
Somewhat. Most of the time, I try to get my dad to do it, though.
Okay. All right. Yeah, well, you're 16
he,
now. You got to learn to tie your own knots.
Don't tie your knots for him.
Yeah, I mean, it's some point where I'm like, no, dude, you got to tie your own knots now. All right, Oliver, what did your friends think of all this?
Yeah, no, so I actually really like it. I think it's something that people have actually been able to take out a couple of my friends fishing. They've been able to fly fish for the first time, because not a lot of they didn't really know what it was. They just think fishing's just umbrella, and they don't really know a lot about it. But we've been able to take a bunch of other people out, have them catch their first fish on a fly rod. It's been really cool.
Yeah. Hey, one more question. What do you feel like you learned the most from doing this?
Probably patience. I'm still getting there, but yeah, no, a lot of times there's been more of like, okay, we're here. Don't really expect too much. Let's go and catch this fish. Obviously, there's complications that happen with everything, but just being able to try to work around those.
There you go. It's great advice. Do you have any advice for people that want to try this, Oliver?
Yeah, I think that you have to go out and experience something before you determine if you like it or not.
Mm-hmm. Meaning fly fishing?
Yeah, meaning fly fishing, meaning everything. I think that a lot of people don't necessarily try to get out, and I think that that's something that a lot of people should try to do. I think that fly fishing is something that brings you closer to nature, brings you closer, and makes you experience different things that you might have experienced earlier.
Yeah, that's really cool. And Ben, I got a question for you here. What I'm curious, when you first started, I'm wondering what you were hoping to discover on this journey, and when you look back now, what did you actually discover?
I think when I first started the challenge, I started first and foremost with the Arizona Trout Challenge that we came out with. The state came out with, I think, 6 or 7 years ago, and it kind of started the train of looking at these things, because it took me to places around even Arizona that I would have never gone to. And so, essentially it started with that, and then being rewarded with a certificate of that accomplishment, and looking back and seeing, oh, I caught this fish on this day at this place, and I caught this fish on this day, and then seeing my wife complete that and my son complete those similar things. It has been incredible to be able to be experiencing and having these memories with my family, with whether it be my wife or whether it be my son, to be able to having those things. And it's been an incredible journey to be able to end up sharing. And as a whole, I think anything that you do, that you put time, you put effort into, you respect it more. That it's one of the things I love about fly fishing. And so, as we taught different individuals, a lot of times fly fishing initially was kind of thought of as an elitist way of fishing. And, we've got our nose up in the air and we're better than those guys that are fishing with their lures or those kind of things. We're elitist, we're just better than other people, is how I think a lot of people have viewed it. And, as we take time to be able to saying, no, it's just a different way of fishing. And here's this. And, you start to invest and take time to learn to do something, you respect it more. You take care of it better because it took time, it took effort in order to do that. And so I look and say, essentially as we go out, people have to catch fish. If you don't catch fish, you don't do it again.
Yeah, it's not as fun, is it?
And so that's the very first thing. And so, I look and say, some of the efforts that we've put forth with Game and Fish, or whether it be, us going and taking Oliver's friends to different places that they've not ever held a fishing rod in their life. And, we do a quick 10, 15-minute lesson before we even get out of the water, because once you get in the water, everyone wants to fish, but it's okay. Here's this. And then having those successes that come from it just changes people's lives, that they also now start to respect the habitat. They start to respect, and they're, not that people don't accidentally leave things on, but people will leave garbage, and there's just not a respect that's there. But when you invest time, I find that most people respect things better when they've invested in them.
Take care of things.
And so that's really been one of our biggest focus is, at least my biggest focus is just trying to say, hey, I want to be able to end up imparting on this lifestyle, for lack of a better word. I mean, to me, it's not my hobby, it's my lifestyle. I love it. I love being out and slowing down and having to release whatever else may be going on in life, because if I don't, you know what I'm caught on? I'm caught on a tree. I'm caught on a bush. You find out really quick whether you're fully invested and focused on what you're doing, no matter how good you are. And so it's one of those things where it forces you to kind of be all in. And in that aspect, I think that's something that is a great release for a lot of people.
I love that. All right, last question. Top 3 restaurants you guys discovered along the way.
Well, I'll let Oliver take this, because he's much more the foodie than I am. I was the guy driving, and
you're the Pop-Tart guy.
We don't need to stop. We don't need to stop. Me stopping means that I'm going to be tireder when we get to the place.
Yeah, I'm a teenager. Feed me. I can eat 2 medium pizzas by myself, right?
He's definitely got her own up.
Yeah. What do you think, Oliver?
One of the first places that comes to mind when we were fishing is the Red Boxcar. It's a burger place just outside of the Beartooth Wilderness.
Right outside the Beartooth. And what town's that in, would you say? Is that Cook City down that way or up the other side?
I think it's in Red Lodge.
It's in Red Lodge. Okay, great town. All right, folks. So how can people get in touch with you if they have questions about the challenge?
Probably the easiest way would be an email. My email address is going to be fish, FISH, trem, TREM 52 at hotmail.com. So it's fishtrem52 at hotmail.com would probably be the easiest way. Or else you can always follow me on Instagram. It's fishtrem, or even on Facebook are the 2 places I tend to be.
All right, that's wonderful. And we will try to get some pictures of these flies that Ben and Oliver were talking about, and get those out on our Facebook and Instagram pages. And also, we've got some fantastic photography of these places that they visited. So check our Facebook and Instagram page for that. So thank you both for being on the show, Ben and Oliver. It's great having you.
Thank you.
Well, thank you for having us.
Yeah, you bet. Listen, I wish you both extraordinary success in all your adventures to follow. And folks, you can always DM me or email me with comments and suggestions at shaig50@gmail.com. And if you like the show, please share it with a buddy. As always, our music is by A Brothers Fountain. Hope you enjoyed the show, and we will see you again soon. Tight lines, everybody.
Well, I'll go from the land to the shining sea. But I know there's more to life than what the eye can see.